Hey, welcome to the More Life, Less Drama podcast. I'm your host, Prue Sulisic, and I'm here to lead you to a more fulfilling and peaceful life. This is not some fancy podcast bringing you extraordinary stories. I'm just here keeping it real, raw, and honest, so you know it's possible for you too. I want you to know yourself so well, nothing stands in your way. So let's get to it. Life is waiting. Hello, welcome back to the More Life, Less Drama podcast. It's really nice to have you here, and we're up to episode 47. We're getting close to 50, which will be another huge achievement on my behalf, which is great, and your behalf if you've been listening and following along. So yeah, welcome to the latest episode. Today I'm actually going to be following on from the conversation that we had last week about standing up for yourself. So last week I taught you what circumstances where you can and what it actually looks like. I can't get off the topic, so I need to talk more about this, but it's going to be short, sharp and sweet, okay? Oh so sweet, because the more that you hear about stories of people standing up for themselves, the easier it is for you to be able to do this for yourself, because that's the whole idea behind this. I'm not sharing these stories for any other purpose except to help you and empower you to actually stand up for yourself in your own life, in the circumstances of your own life that you might be feeling like you're being walked over or not appreciated or just treated poorly. So in the theme of looking out for yourself and being your biggest advocate, which is what I want you to be, this episode is for you. I am going to walk through some more examples about how I've seen people out in the world, and mostly my clients and friends and just people out in the world standing up for themselves, and I'm just bringing it to you so you can just get the gist of what I'm talking about. Because as I said in the last episode, this is not about big, huge things. It's not confrontation and removing people and being loud and doing all that. It's not that. I want you to know how to do this subtly in your life, because it's the small things that count the most. Like, as an introvert, and I'm sure all my fellow introverts will be applauding me right now, to do things that are small and quiet but is still empowering for yourself is just so great. And the whole idea about being loud just puts us off completely, so we don't want to always think that that's the only way. So really, maybe I'm just helping all of you fellow introverts out there to get your voice, to step into your power. As much as I hate that saying, I just used it. I really want you to figure out what this looks like for yourself and step into it. So firstly, why is it important? It's because you are the only person in your life that has control over you. The saying goes, you are 100% of the people that you can control. And it's true. If you don't like something or someone or where you're at in life, that is up to you. You can change it. Nobody else can change it. You can't control anybody else. They can't control you. We love to actually point the finger and say, look, you can't control me. Nobody else can control me and force me to do anything. Well, the same goes. We love to try to control other people, but we can only control ourselves. So that is the first and foremost reason why standing up for yourself is really important, because it allows you to be in control over you. The second thing is it teaches you resilience. I love to call it being unshakable. So if you never put yourself in a situation that gets you feeling uncomfortable or doing things that you're afraid of, or speaking up and speaking your mind, then you won't give yourself this gift. And believe me, it is a gift. Resilience is a gift that you can give yourself, but you only get it by putting yourself out there, by doing these things that are hard and uncomfortable. So that's the second thing. The third thing is it sets the boundaries for your life. And as you might remember, a boundary is something that you put in place and that you need to enforce, and people don't step over your boundary, you step over your boundary. So you get what you put up with. If you feel resentful about something like cooking dinner every night and nothing is changing, yet you don't have the conversation, then that's what you're going to get. You're just going to get the expectation that you're the person that's cooking dinner. So you put up the boundaries in your life. You set the standards of what you're going to put up with and what you're not going to put up with. So that's the third thing. And the last one, which is so important, is you get to be yourself. It's not some bullshit version of yourself that is people pleasing and living up to somebody else's expectations. No, it's not staying small around people so they don't feel uncomfortable. You just get to be you. This is the whole idea about standing up for yourself, because the more that you do it, the more that you'll figure out what you do like and what you don't like and who you want to be and who you don't want to be. It's just this trial and error. I also just want to say that you can't be fooled into thinking that you need to be the same person every day, day in, day out, year in, year out. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's not like you find who you are and that's who you are forever. Like, no, that is a bullshit story too. You are constantly changing, and that is okay. So yes, so they're the reasons why you should continue to stand up for yourself. And now let's jump in and hear the stories in real life, like real life stories about people standing up for themselves. And while I'm telling these stories, I want you to tap into what your life looks like and maybe where you've stood up for yourself as well over the whole of your life, maybe the past few weeks, maybe after listening to one of my episodes. Just tap in and think to yourself, okay, where is this me? And how am I doing this already? Or where would I like to do this? So this is the idea behind me sharing these stories. So over the past few weeks, I have been gathering all the examples of what standing up for yourself looks like, or sticking up for yourself, however you'd like to phrase it. Okay, so let's get into some of the examples. The first one which sparked this idea about this episode was I was having coffee with a friend, and she was telling me about something that happened in her life recently. And even though I'm going to keep it completely anonymous, I will be a little bit vague with some details, but you'll get the gist of the story anyway. So this woman, she's an amazing business owner and has been in and runs a successful business. And recently she sacked a client or a customer, however you'd like to say it. And when she told the story, I was like, this is a great example of standing up for yourself. So this friend of mine had a customer in her business and had been a customer for years, like over a decade, I think. And for that whole time, she felt that she was bending over backwards for her client, and her client wasn't reciprocating and being a great client. She would cancel last minute, and they would always waive a cancellation fee or the fee that was attached to it. She would be rude to the staff members. She even went as far as made one of them cry, and always would be let off the hook. She would come late. She would fluff around, and therefore everybody would have to stay late past their working hours to accommodate her. Anyway, there's so many things in this story, and she had always, like my friend, had always just appeased her, accommodated for her, because, you know, she was trying to be a good business owner, and she was like, this is what you have to do, and all this sort of stuff. Anyway, so some things happened, and she decided, actually, this is not going to happen anymore. I'm not going to let it. So she stood up for herself, and in true style for this person, she was super nice about it, and she still sacked them as a client or a customer. And that is huge, because a lot of the time we think being walked all over is okay in certain circumstances, and it's just not okay, and nobody gets the right to do that to you. And so she found her inner voice, and she was like, you know what, this needs to change, and I'm the only one that can change it, so this is what's happening. And she sacked the client. And I know that this can be very confronting for a lot of people, but it's the old saying of the customer is always right. Sometimes they're not, and I'm okay with that. So that was a perfect example that sparked this idea in me. So just think, in your life, where are you being walked all over? Where are you thinking that you need to put up with some bullshit behavior for certain reasons, whether it be business success or family relationship stuff? You know, just think about it. And then I was thinking about the second example. I'm going to start at the end first. So the end story is that it's okay sometimes not to let stuff go. And I've only learnt this lesson recently myself, and I've been learning Because as a coach, we learn from our clients all the time, right? Like we're always hearing their stories and we're like, oh my God, yes, like this is so interesting. And you see so many different perspectives, which is why I love coaching. And this person, she was always in the mindset that you need to let stuff go. You know, the Frozen song comes to mind, right? And it's like, it's on us, we've got to let it go, it hurts us more than it hurts them, we've got to forgive, all this sort of stuff. And this client got to the point where it's like, actually, it doesn't serve me to let everything go. Because you know why? Sometimes things happen, people hurt you, and the way that you can stand up for yourself is actually to remember these things. Because if you are the person setting the boundaries in your life and the things that you expect to be treated, well, if you keep being treated, allow others to treat you poorly, then that is your boundary that you're setting, and yeah, you're just allowing yourself to be walked all over or made to feel inadequate and annoying, basically, by a family member. This came to a head because a client of mine was having trouble with a family member. 10% of the time that they would leave the interaction with that family member and feel just terrible about themselves, and it would make them self-doubt and make them think to themselves, geez, I'm not a very nice person and I'm really inconvenient and I really need to work on myself more. Anyway, a lot of this stuff has come up, which, yes, I know it's always on somebody to work on themselves. Like, I get this. And if this person decided that, you know what, it's okay for that person to say those things and treat me that way, then they're setting the standard of their life. And so what they've done instead is they've decided to take a stand. And this is where the introverts are going to get excited, because taking a stand didn't look like having a shouting match at that person or even having a conversation yet, because this conversation might come later. But the first part of standing up for themselves was to remove themselves from that person's presence. This might look like this person doesn't live with this person, but it might be that they don't take that person's phone calls as soon as they ring. Maybe it's that they don't invite them over to dinner, and then they're like, you know what, I'm just going to let them not come for dinner to my house until I've worked through this, until I've figured out what is the conversation I want to have with them. And they've decided that when they feel like ready to let this person in, they're reminding themselves of what's happened. And that's the not letting go piece, because they know that as soon as they get in that person's presence again, they will allow things to be said about them and to be walked all over. They might not have the words yet to actually have that conversation, so they need space. So instead of rushing back in and being exactly like they've always been with that person, they're like, you know what, I'm pausing. So the pause on their relationship, whether it be not inviting them down to stay over, not going for dinner, not taking their phone calls, is the person's way of standing up for themselves, giving themselves space so they can process what's going on for themselves. And this could look like different things in different scenarios. So leaving that scenario behind, maybe it's things like this for you. Maybe it's a friend who puts you down all the time. Maybe it's your partner who does something hurtful and makes you feel a certain way about yourself. Maybe it's your boss who always overlooks you for a promotion every time, and you've been their dedicated employee for so many years. Not letting things go can be a form of standing up for yourself. Not letting people continue to do the same things over and over and over again. Forgiving people quickly might be what you've always done, but instead you're putting yourself first and you're considering if forgiveness is even possible. Interesting, isn't it? Now, this is different to being passive aggressive. You all know what passive aggressive behavior looks like. This is more, and I love this term, is passive assertiveness. And anybody that is struggling with assertiveness, really hold on to this, because passive assertiveness is the place where you are giving yourself space to work through how you feel and how to work on those hard conversations. it's not having the conversation right now. It is giving yourself space, saying no to phone calls, saying no to time spent with the person. That's being passive assertive for yourself, because remember, it's about us. We get to look after us. That's all we do. Everybody else gets to look after themselves as well, so we have to learn to look after us, and being passive assertive is a great way to do it. Okay, so enough on that one. I have another story I want to share about people standing up for themselves, and it's in the bedroom with intimate relationships. And you might not think this as standing up for yourself, but oh my God, this is a huge part of it. And again, I have a person that I know who has never asked for anything when it comes to sex. They would never really talk about sex with a friend or with anyone. They're not even talking about it with their intimate partner because they've got lots of limiting beliefs around all that sort of stuff. Anyway, so through coaching, which is why, again, coaching is amazing, they were seeing that they were being and feeling overlooked and just felt used and all that type of stuff. And this is not something that was a huge thing, but they asked for something really simple. They had a super simple request in the bedroom. I'm not even going to tell you the specifics of it, but the super simple request, and just voicing that request with their husband for many years, that was a way of standing up for herself and what she wanted. So these are great examples of how simple and subtle these can be. As you can imagine though, it is not a small thing for someone to speak up in such an intimate part of their lives and ask for what they want. That can be very vulnerable, and this woman did it, and I'm so proud of her, and I know that I'll be encouraging her to do more in the future. So that is a start, that is for sure. So again, think about this for yourself as well. Is this you? Can you advocate for yourself more in the bedroom? Okay, just going to leave that one there. Okay, I have another story, and this is a great way to stand up for yourself. I had a client and we were talking one day, and she was coming out from a season of her life where she just didn't think that she was very smart. And when we go through the coaching process, we highlight a lot of things that we think about ourselves, and we really unpack them, and we're like, is this true? And actually most of them are all BS and not true. And so one thing that came up for this client was that she had voted the same way for the same party because their family members had always voted for that party. And she didn't even understand why she was voting for that party. She didn't even have any reasons why, except that her family always voted for that party as well. And so she started to get curious. And this is where standing up for yourself can come in helpful, because when you practice these things, you can actually step into some understanding about what you want and do things that go against the grain of what your family are doing, which is really hard, right? And so she was getting curious, she's asking questions to understand why they always had voted a certain way. And then she decided, actually, I'm going to look into some other parties and see what their policies are and all the rest of it. Then, once she had gathered all the information that she needed, she felt like she had an understanding of what she was looking for in a member, and decided to vote on her own accord rather than just going along with what the family had voted for her whole life for no reason other than, that's what they did. So yeah, so she stood up for herself and was like, I'm voting this way instead. And she shared it. She didn't actually think she needed to hide it either. And then she was proud of her reasoning and her vote, and so she was able to articulate it as well. And it's okay if people disagree with her. So that was her own version of standing up for herself, doing something that she felt was right and coming to the conclusion of, rather than just going with the flow and going with what everybody else around her for her whole life. Interesting, right? Another example of standing up for yourself could be declining a job offer. And I know another client of mine went through this a couple of years ago. She was searching for something more for her career. She was already very successful in her job, and she was just looking for more and looking for a different pathway. Yet she was offered a job that was in the same line of work that she was doing already. And everybody's like, oh my God, it's the best job. This is the job trajectory that you've been wanting all this time. This is a huge step up in the ladder for you, for the corporate ladder. You'd be crazy if you didn't take it. But she didn't take it because she was standing up for herself. She had noticed that even though the job offer was stroking her ego, because that's what happens a lot of the time, and it was giving her all that external validation, at the end of the day, she knew she didn't want it. She knew that she wanted to actually pivot and go into a different direction. And so for her to actually do that, declining that job offer was her standing up for herself. It wasn't just going on with what was expected of her, and because everybody around her told her she was crazy if she didn't take it because it was the best job ever, but she wouldn't have been satisfied in that job. So she was brave enough to say no to that job offer and change her career, which she did, and is now thriving in. So yeah, it's not always the right thing to take a job offer, especially if it's the job offer of your dreams from maybe 10 years ago. It might not be the job offer of your dreams today. And it's really important to tap into what you want today and not to always just stick with the trajectory of life that is set out before you from 10 years ago. So that is a huge way that you can stand up for yourself. Another client of mine took a complaint to a manager. And you might think, yeah, well, this happens every day. But if you saw the background of this client, how she would never want to rock the boat, she would always take it on herself to solve every single situation and would always make it about her. For her to take this issue to a manager above the manager that she was having problems with was a huge part of advocating for herself and standing up for herself. So if you're a person that's sitting here right now going, oh, you've just got to sort this sort of stuff out by yourself, well, I'm here to tell you that maybe that is actually doing you an injustice. So yeah, standing up for yourself is taking it to the higher manager or above the person that is giving you a hard time at work. It's always okay to ask for help in these situations, and it's always okay to voice your concerns. So yeah, totally stoked and happy about this client because she was really struggling. She was really struggling with people-pleasing tendencies and didn't want to rock the boat, like I said, so she would always do things alone. This part of her story is huge. It has literally changed her life because her life has changed in all sorts of ways since learning how to stand up for herself. She's now in a different career and she's really stepping into other areas of her life where she's improving them. So yeah, so many great stories about people standing up for themselves through the coaching journey with me. And here's another great story. This is the one I'm going to finish on because it just happened this week and I was like, wow, that's going to go on the list. So I had a client, we were just chatting through the week, and she was giving me an update about a health scare that she has had. And she was dealing with this health scare and she was starting to understand what was going on, and she's got further tests to come. And as you can imagine, as the person that is dealing with the health scare, you've got lots of going on in your own mind and your own brain, lots to process. And then she had a conversation with her mum and doing a trip with her mum. And her mum was projecting out all her worries and concerns onto her about how she's going to deal with her condition. And it makes me laugh because it's like you're the person with the thing and someone else is worried how they're going to deal with your thing. And it's like, this is not actually your problem. This is my problem. But what happened was that my client, who was, again, always into people pleasing, liked to make sure everybody else is comfortable and, feeling heard and validated. She actually said to her mum, she said, hey mum, I know that you're scared and that this is really scary for you, but I'm also trying to figure this out for myself right now. And I love you that you're worried about me, but I would really appreciate it if you would find another person to give you some support around how to deal with this that's not me. I'm so proud of her, because as the person that's dealing with the thing, then we're like worried about the person that's worried about us. And like my client said, she's like, I really need to control my stress levels right now. And so stressing about how my mum is dealing with it because she's telling me how she's not dealing with it is really stressful. And so standing up for yourself looks like, hey, I know that you're worried and I would like you to find somebody else to support you through this that is not me. But I love you at the same time. This is huge, because if you don't say those things, what ends up happening is you get resentful from that person, and therefore you don't want to be around that person, and it can cause all sorts of shifts in the dynamics of a relationship. And for this person to speak up and say that is actually going to make their relationship stronger. And and if they're looking out for themselves, if she wants a really great relationship with her mum, saying these hard things now is the best way forward for that relationship, don't you think? There's so many examples that I could give you, but I just thought I'd give you those few because they might just resonate with you and might give you an understanding about what I'm talking about when I'm saying stand up for yourself, go out and advocate for yourself. I just want to remind you is that it's not all about confrontation, not all about big, loud and out there events in your life that you need to like really, be loud and scream at somebody or whatever. Like, no way. We're not talking about that sort of stuff. We're just talking about subtle little shifts in things that allow us to stand up for ourselves and the person that we want to be and that the life that we want to live. And so that was just a few examples. And so I'm curious to know, where are you standing up for yourself? And do you need some support with this? Because as I've shared through a lot of these stories, a lot of them are coaching clients. I spend a lot of my time one-on-one coaching with people that want to learn this. It's only recently when I've figured out, actually, this is what I do really great. I'm really great at helping people stand up for themselves. And so if you're thinking to yourself, I could use a bit of that in my life, I wonder what's stopping me from actually doing that right now. And P.S. it's mostly just a lot of BS stories that you're telling yourself that are from your past. But if you want to clear all that and you want to move forward and start to be the person that is like, you know what, I deserve my own time, I deserve my own respect, I deserve to set boundaries for myself, well, maybe one-on-one coaching is the way forward for you. So I'm always here for anybody that is up to doing some coaching. I really love working with people that are committed and are dedicated to their growth. I love committed people. I love committed people. So if you're committed to yourself and your growth, I'm going to urge you to reach out and have a conversation with me one-on-one. It's a free conversation where we can gauge whether we're a great fit for each other, whether I can help you with what you need help with, and we just take it from there. And remember, attached to last week's episode, and it will also be still available for this week's episode, is a free resource with a heap of reflective questions. So if you want to continue this work and start diving in and opening up your brain to how you are already and what's going on, jump in and download my free PDF, which will just help. It will just help give yourself some new perspectives, which can never hurt, right? With that, I'm going to wrap this episode up. Really glad to have you here, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.